Let me start with something most men don't want to hear, but desperately need to. Women only respect men who stop trying so hard to earn their respect. That's right. All those texts, calls, gifts, and endless attempts to please her, they're not making you more attractive. They're quietly killing your value in her eyes. You might hate hearing it, but it's the brutal truth. And if you're honest with yourself, deep down you felt it. The more you chase, the less respect you get. Most men live their lives like this, constantly seeking approval, validation, and attention from women. They think respect comes from being nice, generous, or always available. And yet, the moment a man detaches, stops overcommitting, and focuses on himself, something strange happens. The respect starts to show up almost magically. You stop being needy. You stop being predictable. You stop giving her power over your emotions. And suddenly, she sees you differently. She notices your independence. She notices your strength. She notices the fact that you don't revolve your life around her. Here's the controversial part. The very things you've been told will make you better with women, your effort, your attention, your constant emotional availability, are often the exact things that erode respect. Women are not inherently disrespectful, but human psychology is complex and power dynamics in relationships are subtle. When you give too much too soon, you tip the balance in her favor, and she unconsciously loses respect because she senses that you're putting her above yourself. Respect in many ways comes from scarcity, from a sense of self-possession, from a man showing that he has a life that doesn't revolve around pleasing her. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Does that mean I should be cold or manipulative? Absolutely not. Detachment isn't about being cruel, it's about reclaiming your own life and your own energy. It's about realizing that your self-worth does not depend on her opinion of you. And this is where the real magic happens. Once you stop desperately trying to impress, you automatically become more attractive. Women can sense it. They can sense a man who is emotionally free, who isn't constantly looking for approval. That freedom, yes, that complete detachment from needing her respect or validation is magnetic. Let's be honest, most men fail here because they confuse love or care with submission. They think showing interest equals respect, but it doesn't. In fact, excessive interest often communicates desperation, and desperation is one of the fastest ways to lose respect. A man who constantly seeks approval signals that he's dependent on her emotions, her decisions, and her approval. And here's the harsh truth. A woman will never respect a man who has no boundaries, no self-control, and no independent life. You can't earn respect by being nice. You can only command it by being whole on your own. Another controversial idea. Detachment isn't just about taking space. It's about becoming someone who cannot be easily manipulated. Most men live in a state of emotional servitude, and the moment a woman realizes she doesn't hold power over your attention or mood, respect grows organically. You stop begging for texts, likes, or reactions. You stop compromising your time and energy for approval. You start living a life where her respect is optional, not mandatory. That shift alone makes men far more magnetic than any superficial charm or physical appearance ever could. Here's something most men don't want to admit. You might be putting in years of effort for a relationship, yet receiving less respect than a man who simply stands firm in his detachment. It's uncomfortable, it's unfair, and it feels counterintuitive, but it works. When you detach, you aren't being unloving. You're being realistic. You're acknowledging the truth about human behavior. Respect is not given freely. It's earned through self-possession, confidence, and independence. By the end of this video, I want you to see one undeniable reality. If you want respect from a woman, you must learn to let go completely. Not a little, not sometimes, but fully. Detachment isn't ignoring her. It's refusing to sacrifice yourself for validation. It's choosing your life, your growth, and your boundaries over her fleeting attention. And here's the kicker. Once you do that, the respect you've been chasing will often appear naturally, without manipulation, without effort, and without trying to control the relationship. So if you're tired of feeling overlooked, undervalued, or disrespected, it's time for a hard reset. Stop chasing. Stop overgiving. Stop bending yourself to fit her desires. Step into your own life, your own power, and your own self-respect. Once you do, you'll realize the truth that most men only learn too late. Women don't respect men because of what they do for them. They respect men because of who they are when they no longer depend on her approval. And that, gentlemen, is where true attraction, true power, and true respect begin. Let's get straight to the point. Men lose respect the moment they chase too hard. Every text you send, every call you make, every attempt to please her can quietly lower her opinion of you. It's a truth most men refuse to accept because it goes against everything we've been taught about relationships. We've been told to be nice, to show her you care, to make her feel special. And yes, some of that has its place. But when you overdo it, when your attention becomes desperate, respect vanishes. Think about it. When a man is always available, always agreeing, always eager to please, he sends a very clear message. I need you to feel good about me, to feel good about myself. That neediness chips away at value because no one respects someone who depends on them for happiness. Women notice this instinctively. They might not say it out loud, but they feel it. And respect quietly disappears. Now here's what flips the script. When you detach, when you stop giving her your constant attention, the dynamic changes completely. You stop trying to control how she feels about you, and in that space, respect begins to grow. Detachment isn't being cold or distant, it's being emotionally independent. It's living your life fully and allowing her to be interested because she wants to be, not because she has power over you. Here's a simple way to see it in action. Imagine a man who always texts back instantly, says yes to every plan, and constantly checks in. He's putting all his energy into her reactions. At first, it seems like she's enjoying the attention. But over time, she starts to take it for granted. She doesn't respect his time, his boundaries, or even his opinions, because he's made himself endlessly available. He's given her the power, and she unconsciously feels less need to treat him with respect. Now imagine the same man decides to step back. He stops sending constant messages. He focuses on his friends, his work, his hobbies. He has his own life and doesn't revolve around her schedule or moods. Suddenly, she notices. She notices that he's not waiting by the phone. She notices that he's confident, that he's prioritizing himself. That subtle change shifts the way she sees him. Respect begins to reappear. She values his time, listens to his opinions, and starts appreciating him in a way that never happened when he was chasing relentlessly. Here's the controversial truth most men can't stomach. Respect is more about scarcity than effort. When you give too much too easily, you devalue yourself. When you create space, you create tension, you create mystery, and you create a sense of worth that she can't ignore. This is not manipulation. It's understanding human psychology. It's understanding that people naturally value what isn't always available. Detachment also teaches a man how to control his emotions. When you chase, you react to her behavior. Every like, every response, every reaction from her triggers a spike of hope or disappointment. You're letting her control your emotional state. When you step back, you stop giving her that power. You start controlling your own mood, your own happiness. And a man who controls his own emotions is inherently more commanding, more magnetic, and more respected. Another point, this doesn't mean you stop caring or ignore her entirely. It means you care on your own terms. You're not measuring your value based on her reactions. You're not overextending yourself to keep her interest. You're living fully, independent of her approval. And here's the irony. When you do this, she often becomes more invested. Respect and attraction grow naturally because you've stopped trying to earn them. Remember, chasing destroys respect because it signals neediness. Detaching restores respect because it signals independence. It signals that you are a man with his own priorities and a life she can't control. It signals that you are strong enough to be yourself, whether she's interested or not. And that strength, that freedom, is exactly what commands respect. In real life, this might look like not texting her multiple times a day when she's slow to reply. It might look like politely declining plans that don't fit your schedule. It might look like focusing on a personal goal instead of waiting for her validation. The result is simple. She starts valuing your presence more because she can't take it for granted. The chase is over, and suddenly respect starts to flow naturally. In the end, the lesson is clear and unapologetic. Stop chasing if you want respect. Stop bending yourself to fit her moods. Stop overcommitting. Stop sacrificing your own life for the sake of her attention. Detachment isn't coldness, it's strength. It's a man living fully and refusing to allow his value to depend on someone else's recognition. When you do this, not only does respect return, but attraction grows stronger. And for a man who understands this, that's a power no amount of effort or pleading could ever buy. Most men make one huge mistake that destroys respect almost instantly. They bend too easily to her moods, wants, and demands. You've felt it before, haven't you? That sinking feeling when you agree to something you don't really want to do just to keep her happy. That hesitation in your voice because you're worried she'll get upset if you say no. That constant effort to read her mind and adjust yourself to fit her day. It's exhausting, and here's the harsh truth. It quietly erodes respect. Think about how it feels when someone constantly gives in. At first, it might seem like it makes life easier. You avoid conflict, you make her feel good, but over time that constant bending communicates weakness. It signals that your priorities are negotiable, that your feelings are secondary, that your life can be reshaped to fit hers. And when that happens, respect slips away. Women can feel it instinctively. They might not confront you about it, but the respect isn't there. Men who have boundaries don't have this problem. They know what's non-negotiable. They know when to say yes, and more importantly, when to say no. They prioritize themselves without guilt. They don't let moods, opinions, or temporary discomfort dictate their actions. And here's the key: setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's magnetic. It communicates strength, self-respect, and a life that isn't up for grabs. We live in a culture that tells men to please, to accommodate, and to overextend. But let's be real. Women respect a man who respects himself first. A man who doesn't bend to every mood swing, who doesn't give up his time or his energy just to avoid tension, who doesn't sacrifice his values to keep things smooth. That man is naturally compelling. Women are drawn to him, not because he's perfect, but because he refuses to compromise who he is for approval. Here's something most men can relate to. You've probably been in situations where you felt like you were walking on eggshells. You were careful with what you said, cautious with how you acted, and constantly adjusting so she wouldn't be upset. It's draining, right? It leaves you feeling small, diminished, and invisible. That feeling is a clear sign that boundaries are missing. And when boundaries are missing, respect disappears. Boundaries also create predictability, which paradoxically earns you more influence. When a man knows what he will and won't tolerate, women, and people in general, start treating him differently. They understand where the line is. They know that he won't bend endlessly. They know that his time and energy aren't cheap. That understanding naturally commands respect. It's not about intimidation. It's about being rooted in who you are. Another relatable point: we've all been tempted to over-apologize for small things, to excuse our actions, or to explain ourselves endlessly just to avoid conflict. The truth is, over-apologizing does not earn respect. It signals insecurity. A man who owns his actions without begging for acceptance communicates confidence. That confidence is magnetic. It's the kind of behavior that women notice, even if they can't always articulate why. Here's a subtle but powerful effect. When you set boundaries, you automatically filter who deserves your attention. You no longer bend for everyone, you no longer give freely to people who take advantage, and you no longer sacrifice your energy for approval. Women respect a man who cannot be easily swayed because it shows that his world isn't dependent on their opinion. He has his own life, his own standards, and his own priorities, and that independence creates natural attraction and respect. Boundaries also protect your mental and emotional energy. When you stop bending, you stop being drained by the constant need to please. You feel stronger, more present, and more in control of your own life. That internal strength is visible. Women notice it, people notice it, and respect, it naturally follows when you operate from a place of integrity and self-possession. So here's the takeaway: don't chase approval. Set boundaries. Don't compromise your time, your energy, or your priorities just to make someone else happy. Don't let moods dictate your actions. Respect grows when a man shows he cannot be easily manipulated, that his life is not negotiable, and that his value is inherent, not dependent on someone else's validation. Men, this is where most of you fail without even realizing it. You think bending constantly is love. You think giving in earns respect. But the truth is the opposite. Strength and self-possession earn respect. Independence earns respect. Boundaries earn respect. And the more you practice protecting your time, your energy, and your emotions, the more you will notice a shift in how people, and especially women, treat you. In the end, it's simple. Approval seeking destroys respect. Boundaries build it. The choice is yours. Men, let's be honest for a moment. Too many of you live your lives as if your happiness depends on someone else's attention. You sacrifice your time, your goals, and your growth trying to keep a woman interested. You rearrange your schedule, compromise your routines, and even ignore your own needs because you think that's what will earn respect or love. And the harsh truth? It rarely works. You're training yourself to be dependent, not respected. You're giving up your power, and it's time to wake up. Respect doesn't come from constant availability. Attraction doesn't come from putting someone else first every single time. A woman can feel that you revolve your world around her, and instinctively, respect begins to fade. There's a subtle but undeniable signal you're sending. You don't value yourself as much as you value her attention. And when that happens, men often wonder why respect and admiration feel so distant. The problem isn't her, it's the way you're living. Your life comes first. That's not just a phrase, it's a principle that too many men ignore. You have ambitions, routines, and responsibilities. You have hobbies, friendships, and goals. Yet, far too often, men put all of that aside to chase attention, validation, or affection that isn't guaranteed. And here's the thing. This isn't just unattractive, it's invisible. You're giving up the very qualities that make you valuable, interesting, and respected. Here's a reality check. Women notice independence. They notice a man who is busy building his life, working on himself, and not waiting around for validation. They notice when a man has goals and standards, and they respect it. But most men don't realize this because they're trapped in the habit of over-giving, over-explaining, and over-prioritizing someone else. That over-prioritization is a fast track to invisibility. You might be present, but you're not respected. And without respect, attention isn't meaningful. Men, this is where many of you need to wake up. You're the prize, not her. You are the one creating value in your own life. You are the one responsible for your happiness, your growth, and your energy. When you act as if she's the center of the universe, you lose sight of that. You become someone who needs validation instead of someone who commands respect. And that desperation, it's noticeable. It's unattractive. It's exhausting. Putting your life first isn't selfish. It's necessary. It's about prioritizing your health, your ambitions, and your boundaries over fleeting attention. It's about understanding that your respect, self-worth, and emotional energy cannot depend on someone else's approval. And here's the critical part. When you live this way, women don't just notice, they start respecting you more. Not because you're withholding or playing games, but because you've established yourself as someone who cannot be easily controlled or devalued. This is also where accountability comes in. Too many men blame women when respect seems absent. They complain that she doesn't appreciate them or that she's difficult. But the truth is, respect isn't owed, it's earned. And the first step toward earning it is having a life worth respecting. That means showing up for yourself first. That means living with purpose, setting boundaries, and refusing to compromise your values for approval. Here's a relatable point. How often have you ignored your goals because you thought a text, call, or reaction was more important? How often have you canceled plans or adjusted your priorities because you feared losing her attention? Every time you do that, you reinforce a pattern where your value is measured by someone else's interest, not by your own actions. That pattern kills respect silently. Men need to wake up to this reality. Your life is your leverage. When you are fully invested in yourself, respect follows naturally. When you prioritize your growth, your ambitions, and your energy, you signal independence, strength, and self-possession. That's magnetic. That's attractive. That's respected. And yet, most men refuse to apply it consistently because it feels uncomfortable, because it requires discipline, because it challenges the habit of seeking approval. So here's the final takeaway. Stop living as if someone else determines your value. Stop giving up your time, energy, and priorities for approval. Step into your life fully, unapologetically, and with confidence. When you do, respect doesn't need to be demanded. It arrives naturally. And for men who realize this, the game changes completely. Men, it's time to wake up. Stop bending. Stop chasing. Stop putting someone else's attention above your own life. Respect begins with you, and if you refuse to make yourself a priority, you will never truly be respected by anyone else. Now, let's be real for a moment, and I want you to listen carefully because this is the part most men refuse to hear. Women don't respect men because they love them, care about them, or because the man does all the right things. Respect is not a reward for kindness, gifts, or effort. It's a reaction to strength, independence, and self-possession. And yes, that means most men are going through life being overlooked, undervalued, and disrespected. Not because they aren't good enough, but because they're living their lives the wrong way. Here's the controversial truth. If you're constantly chasing, bending, overgiving, and seeking approval, you are, without realizing it, teaching women and people in general to undervalue you. You are creating patterns where your time, attention, and energy are disposable. You are training the world to treat you as less than you are. And the most uncomfortable part? Most men don't wake up until years of wasted energy and broken self-esteem hit them like a brick. Let that sink in. It's uncomfortable because it hits close to home. Many of you are nodding, realizing that every time you overextend yourself, every time you compromise who you are just to avoid conflict or gain attention, you're silently losing respect. You're giving it away for free. And here's the kicker. This isn't just about women. This applies to your friends, colleagues, and even family. Anyone who senses that your value is negotiable will treat you accordingly. Respect is never owed. It's earned through the way you live. Now, some of you might feel defensive. You might think, but I love her. I care. I'm committed. And that's fine. But love and respect are not the same. You can love deeply and still be disrespected if you don't maintain your boundaries and prioritize your life. This is where most men fail. They confuse affection with influence, devotion with authority, and effort with respect. And because of that, they spend years being underappreciated, frustrated, and confused. Here's the uncomfortable, controversial reality. You might be doing everything right, following all the advice, giving all the attention, and still getting nothing in return because respect isn't about effort. It's about detachment, independence, and self-possession. It's about showing that your world does not revolve around anyone else's moods or attention. And until you understand that, you will continue to experience the same frustration, the same lack of respect, and the same disappointment over and over. But here's the flip side, and this is where the real opportunity lies. The moment you shift your mindset, the moment you stop chasing, stop bending, and start living fully for yourself, everything changes. Respect doesn't need to be demanded or negotiated. It flows naturally to men who live with purpose, who set boundaries, and who prioritize their lives above the approval of others. That shift is powerful, it's magnetic, and it's the kind of transformation that most men never allow themselves to experience because it requires discomfort, courage, and self-awareness. Now, I want you to take a moment and reflect. How much of your life have you given away seeking attention, approval, or validation? How often have you ignored your goals, your ambitions, or your happiness to make someone else comfortable? And how long will you let yourself continue down this path? These are the questions that separate men who are respected from men who are overlooked. Here's my invitation to you. Comment below with your experiences. Share the moments when you felt overlooked, undervalued, or disrespected despite giving your all. I want to hear your stories because I've been there too, and I know how it feels to invest in someone else while losing yourself. I will read your comments, and I will reach out when I can. This is about more than just respect from women. It's about regaining respect for yourself. Remember, the most controversial truth here is simple but brutal. If you continue to put others above yourself in the pursuit of respect, you will never have it. You will remain invisible, underappreciated, and undervalued. Respect is not something you earn through effort. It is something you command by being whole, independent, and unattached. And the sooner you realize this, the sooner you start living a life that others naturally honor and value. So, wake up. Stop bending. Stop chasing. Stop giving away your energy and your life in hopes of approval. Step into your own power. Protect your time. Protect your energy. Protect your emotions. When you do, respect stops being a question and becomes a certainty. And again, I want you to share your journey in the comments. Tell me what you've experienced, what you've struggled with, and how you're trying to take your life back. I'll be paying attention because this isn't just a video, it's a conversation. It's a movement for men to wake up and start reclaiming the respect they deserve, not from anyone else, but from themselves first.